outside the door, a kerosene lantern lighting her way. The village had no electricity and would not have it for another 50 years. Shivnath, Jadu's father, would already be up, putting feed in the troughs for the cow and buffalo. From the crack in the wall, Sumitra would pull out the twig and chew on its tip before using the crushed end to brush her teeth. A little before dawn, on a wet July day, Sumitra gingerly crossed the threshold with the lantern in one hand. The earthen floor was slippery from the rain. Sumitra was still in the early stages of her pregnancy, Jadu making his presence known only through the bouts of morning sickness that his mother bore without fuss. The air felt damp on Sumitra's skin. When she put the lantern down and reached up to remove the neem twig, she was stunned by a bite on her hand. At first, Sumitra thought that she had disturbed a wasp, but then she saw the snake slither down. The cobra, probably attracted by the eggs in the sparrow's nest, or maybe only seeking shelter from the night's rain, had hidden itself in the crack. Sumitra gasped, more in surprise than in pain. Shivnath later said that he was emptying the bucket of fodder for the horse, and on hearing Sumitra's small cry, the animal turned its head toward her. When her husband reached Sumitra, she was sitting on the ground holding her hand. The bite was on the ring finger of her right hand. As soon as Shivnath touched her, Sumitra sighed and stretched out on the wet floor. She wanted to say something about the child that was inside her, but she only told her husband to be careful of the snake. Shivnath took her finger in his mouth and sucked on it before spitting out whatever he could taste. He wasn't sure he had been able to get at anything that had already entered Sumitra. He removed the gold ring from her finger, and then, with a mix of practical wisdom and a desperate energy, he drew out his penknife from the pocket of his kurta and made 2 sharp cuts in the skin right over the fang marks. Instead of crying out in pain, Sumitra raised her head an inch and threw up a foamy white and yellow liquid. Her finger felt hot, and Shivnath could see that the whole arm was beginning to blacken and swell. Shivnath called out to his cousin, whose hut was across the narrow lane. About a 5-minute walk away lived a pharmacist who had worked at a small hospital in a nearby district town. Shivnath could think of nothing else to do. It was as if he too had been bitten by the snake. Dazed, he first fetched water and cleaned Sumitra's face, and then picked her up in his arms. Slowly, as carefully as Sumitra herself had walked on the wet floor, he crossed into the house. Sumitra hadn't spoken a word. Her eyes were closed. Her whole body convulsed without warning, and she vomited again. The cousin hadn't come back yet with the pharmacist, and unable to do anything else, Shivnath rubbed ash from the previous night's cooking fire on Sumitra's cut to stop the bleeding. Then he ran outside to get neem leaves, thinking that the juice would be an antiseptic. When he was plucking the leaves, he caught sight of Babulal Mishra, the pharmacist. Like a woman holding up her sari as she wades into a pond, Babulal, dhoti clutched in one hand, was cutting across the field where only weeks earlier Sumitra had planted turmeric and tomato. In one pocket of his shirt, Babulal had a small bottle with purple crystals. Pouring a small amount on a spoon, he brought a match to it. Shivnath watched as pink flames quickly glowed on the dark metal, and he stood watching in surprise and pain as Babulal wordlessly transferred the flaming crystals, bubbling now, from the spoon onto Sumitra's finger. She woke up with a scream, and Shivnath saw that Babulal held Sumitra's shoulder down with his fingers spread wide as if it were he who was her husband. After more crystals had been dissolved in water in a small brass lota, Babulal asked Shivnath to unlock Sumitra's jaws, and then he poured the pink liquid into her mouth. After that, they began.